Is the USA falling apart? Many Americans think so. The United States is falling apart. It's not an alarmist statement by outside observers who bias the United States or intend to abuse the country. It's the view of the majority of Americans. About 4 out of 5 Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, believe the United States has disbanded, according to the Axio Ipsos survey conducted from January 11 to 13. The survey, which includes interviews with over 1,000 adults, was published a week after the Capitol riots on January the 6th. Many United States citizens accepted the poll results on Twitter. Some said that the United States system is failing people who really need help, and this was a sign of terrible rule over the past year by people in high places. Some see the United States as a failed third world state. More and more Americans believe the United States is breaking apart. Behind this is their reduced trust in the country. The country they believe to be omnipotent drove them to boredom, fear, and terror. The United States of America has not been able to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. The raging virus has killed nearly 400,000 Americans and more. Joe Biden, elected president, will face the greatest difficulties in overcoming this challenge after taking office on January 20. After the Capitol riots, the United States become a mockery in international arena. For Western liberal democracy, the American lantern falls. Washington, which was tightly guarded before Biden took the office on January 20, greatly upset many Americans. In a CBS News YouGov poll published on Wednesday, nearly 2/3 of those surveyed said they believe there will be more violence attempts in Washington, D.C. next week. United States media and academics compared the tense environment before Biden took the office with the eve of the 1861 Civil War. Biden is about to come to power, but half of Americans disagree with him and the government he leads. Many people worry that there will be 2 Americans. The split in the USA is unprecedented. Economic contraction, decline in people's living standards, rising unemployment rate, widening of the wealth gap, deepening racial conflict, and uncontrolled epidemic point to the intensification of social contradictions and differences in the United States. However, until now, the United States has shown neither any governance and reform capability nor the determination to solve these problems. The United States national rule has gone astray and has been abducted by partisan struggle, leadership change, and social divisions. Is the USA falling apart? Given the crisis the US is going through, no wonder most Americans answer yes. The USA is grappling with many internal problems. If it fails to make the utmost effort to resolve deep-seated internal turmoil and instead tries to divert public opinion by playing the diplomatic card, especially in the long run, by engaging in the head-to-head conflict with China, there will be a possibility for the USA to collapse. Some Chinese scientists have warned. Why did the USA come to such a situation? Many Westerners attribute current US crisis to President Donald Trump and his administration. Such an opinion is very simple. Trump is not the cause, but the symptom of the collapse of the American world. Americans must seek the root of their country's problem. In the last few decades, Americans have been playing the theory of China's collapse. Now, China is believed to be leading the global recovery from the epidemic, and the US could get stuck in crisis that many worries about and lead to country's collapse. Perhaps we should ask scientists like Gordon Chang, who once exaggerated the Chinese threat theory, is the US falling apart? Is US theory of collapse a topic worth studying by scientists? Money printing, and more money printing. Gold, unlike all other commodities, is a currency. And the major thrust in the demand for gold is not for jewelry. It's not for anything other than an escape from what is perceived to be a fiat money system. Paper money that seems to be deteriorating. Alan Greenspan, ex-United States Federal Reserve Chairman, August 23, 2011. 2020 was an interesting year, to say the least. One aspect of the markets not mentioned in the mainstream media is that gold has had its best year since 2010. Skepticism about the durability of the rally in gold and silver has restricted mining stocks as a stock segment. The 2020 precious metals rally surpasses the gains of gold and silver. There are two ways to interpret the relative performance of mining stocks relative to gold and silver. One comment is that stocks signal that at some point the entire industry will fall in 2021 because they are underperforming. Alternative analysis suggests that metals historically led mining stocks in the early stages of the prolonged bull movement in the industry. In 2021, the entire industry will rise higher and mining stocks will catch up and begin to outperform metals. I tend to believe the latter. The precious metals sector is in the middle of cyclical bull movement that started at the end of 2015. The previous cyclical bull movement lasted from late 2000 to mid-2011. The main factors that triggered the previous cyclical bull move were the widening of the money supply, facilitating the widening government spending gap, and rapidly increasing treasury balance. This, in turn, ignited the technology and housing bubbles of the first decade of this century. The bursting of the housing bubble and the related financial instruments that exacerbated the bubble caused the financial system to collapse in 2008, leading to the massive bailout of banks and other financial intermediaries, with an unprecedented amount funded by taxpayers. The deteriorating health of the economy and financial system has worsened with the virus crisis. In response, the Fed printed more money than it did after the 2008 financial crisis, under the guise of supporting and stimulating the economy. After a brief sugar high in early summer 2020, many measures of economic activity started to slide again. Although some of those who lost their jobs in March and April returned to work, there are over 20 million recently unemployed who are dependent on unemployment benefits. Even worse, the lockdown caused most small businesses across the country to shut down. According to a survey by Yelp, around 60% of these businesses are permanently closed. More than 100,000 restaurants have been permanently closed. In addition, the increasing tenants' loss of many large shopping centers will lead to a commercial real estate debt crisis. Meanwhile, taxpayers are after most commercial real estate loans that go into default. Pressure or collapse, the only trick left in the bag to protect the government's economic and financial system from total collapse would be the implementation of massive stimulus programs. Biden has already called for $1 trillion new support program. Therefore, the Fed will have to print much more money this year. This money will be transferred to the financial system to finance large amounts of treasury issues. Hard money that is not used to finance the treasury issues will flow into things, primarily commodities and perhaps stocks. The dollar has lost 98% of its value against gold since 1971, when Nixon probably temporarily closed the window of gold, further decline to zero, which will do the most damage to the global financial and economic system, and fuel a movement in gold and silver that will surprise most of the population. The most striking contemporary example is the collapse of the German brand in November 1923. The best way to protect your wealth from this inevitability is to have physical stocks of gold and silver and mining stocks. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.